Ooh. God, if only I had like another magazine or something. What is up everyone, Talon here, and welcome back to the channel. Today, cutting right to the chase, we're gonna be taking a look at the Q10 RM4 and the M10 VM4. But a little bit of a quick preface, KWA, quick little history lesson. KWA has been around for a very long time, and they're very well rounded as far as what they've been producing and will continue to produce. We have options all the way from pistols, SMGs, rifles in configurations between gas blowbacks and AEGs. Their history has been long enough to where there are plenty of examples of replicas that have been made that have ended up getting discontinued. Something just didn't pan out between the G36, the Masada, the Magpul, FPG, or even the Chris Vector that they were producing in the gas blowback configuration. And we have plenty more replicas that are going to soon come out from KWA. However, there is such an influx of products that KWA is releasing that I want to be able to show off and at least present a lot of those products to you guys because I, first and foremost, am a big fan of KWA, what they've been producing, and you can probably see a lot of that content on my channel, or even when I was a manager at the Airsoft headquarters, producing content there were plenty of overviews, reviews, as well as even more gameplay featuring some of these KWA products. Well, not these specifically, because these are brand new, and we're gonna get right into them. So both of these replicas came out in late 2023. Now, unfortunately, I believe that these were overshadowed by the F90, the gas blowback Lithgow Arms rifle that KWA released, as well as, being really softened up due to SHOT Show happening in late January of 2024. So there was that weird little buffer period where KWA was still announcing and still wanting to get some media hype on the F90, and then everyone is ramping and getting excited for SHOT Show when these guys were released. So unfortunately, I don't think that they got the attention that they deserved. So what we're gonna do today is I'm gonna talk about some of the features, showcase some of those features, as well as answer who these might be for and why you might find these to be super advantageous. So this replica that I have here in my hands is referred to as the Q10. Q10, you can think of Q standing for quad rail system, and then 10 being the closest associated number to the 10-inch barrel. This, in my left hand, the one that is less dressed up, is referred to as the M10. M standing for M-Lock, look at you, you're catching on, and 10 standing for the 10-inch barrel that this one is sporting just as well. Now, as far as the shared similarities, excuse a couple of the accessories that I have on here. I'm a huge fan of the quad rail aesthetic and wanted to quick dress this up when I got my hands on it. So nothing too fancy, a couple of accessories that I had just laying around that weren't currently utilized on some of my other replicas, and really basic, but pretty easy to dress up. The M10 was the second one to get unboxed and showcased, so it doesn't have any of the nice furniture on it, but there's something very sleek about the minimalist design that the M10 is presenting as well. Some similarities between the Q10 and the M10 is that these are going to be a full metal design from KWA. They are going to feature a version 2 based gearbox system. We will get into some of those guys. The overall barrel length is going to be the same, shared at 10 inches. The handguard is going to be a shared 9.5 inches between the two of them. Different types of handguards for your different type of accessories or aesthetics or preferences, whatever have you. Same overall flip up front iron sight, the same type of anodized orange flash hider, the same full metal ambidextrous selector switch, same version 2 magazine release, same bolt catch release that we're going to talk about in just a second, same type of PTS enhanced battle grip, same type of stock, same charging handle that is ambidextrous, and we'll take the same type of LiPo battery. And as far as the LiPo battery, The one that I have been utilizing both of these models on for just a little bit of testing I have done is going to be the Valken 1200 milliamp 20C LiPo. This one I've used in both of them in just a little bit of testing. I have done a video with the Q10 already as far as a baseline performance. I wanted to get some like distance accuracy and consistency for the F90 and wanted to utilize the Q10 as that baseline. It's my hospital. I'm gonna go up a little bit. And if you want to preview as far as how this one is going to perform, you can see that up in the link in this corner right here. Now, both these are going to have their own individual video as well, further breaking down performance and capabilities when we're talking about like outdoor comparison. This one is going to have a velocity test. This one I've already done a velocity test on, but you know, this is like the overview as far as what these have as far as similarities. They're each going to have their own separate videos breaking down the niche, the specifics of each rifle. So don't you worry. Starting at the differences, first of all, is going to be the overall weight. The Q10, because of the extra Picatinny that is presented on the 6, 3, and 9 o'clock position, this does come in at 7.5 pounds, 7.1 pound. And the M10 is going to be coming in at 5.9 pounds. A little bit different compared to the posted weight on KWA's website. Can't yell at me for not doing my research. I've done my research. And as far as doing my research, I can only do research that is public and presented to me. Got it? Another notable difference between the two that I find rather interesting that again is going to be discussed in those separate videos is going to be inner barrel length. This one is going to feature a 9.9, almost a 10-inch, we can call it a 10-inch inner barrel. It is going to be bronze. I don't know the exact bore diameter as far as like a 6.03 or 6.05. My gut instinct tells me it is a 6.05. What's interesting is that the M10 features a 7.7-inch inner barrel. So that inner barrel goes only to about here compared to the Q10 where the inner barrel comes all the way to here. So on the conversation of velocity, you guys come in nice and close here. On the side of the receiver, we do have our KWA as well as our system, the caliber that we're shooting, as well as our serial number. I like the fact that those are nice, bright, and bold. That's something that I personally like. This model that I have here is serial number 82. Huge fan of that, but you also notice that they do have the system information on the side of that receiver. VM4 stands for variable M4. Variable refers to the velocity. Now this model in particular is going to be the AEG 2.5 Plus. That's something you'll see on some of the advertising, some of the marketing, or even on the box information when you get the M10. Now what is unique about the AEG 2.5 in particular is you are going to have your spring guide that sits in the very back here. On most standard version 2 gearboxes, what is most common, I think what should be most common nowadays, is referred to as a quick change spring system, which means utilizing some type of tool, you can go through the back of the buffer tube here, either loosen your buffer tube or get access immediately to that quick change spring system so your spring guide can come out, as well as the internal spring. Now the internal spring is going to designate the velocity that those BBs are going to travel. So you can change that spring to a higher tension or lower tension. So you can increase or decrease the velocity of the BB. Very easy, very straightforward. I'm a huge fan of that, especially if I want to have not a lot of rifle systems, right? If I want to have one rifle that I can have decked out for indoor or outdoor, and all I potentially need to do is change my spring, that's awesome. KWA, however, has taken it one step further, and they said, we don't want you to worry about more than one spring, right? So they took that spring guide that's sitting back here, they elongated it ever so slightly. So there is a little bit of an extension that sits on the very back here underneath that buffer tube, and they did give you a special tool. Now you still need a long 8-inch Phillips screwdriver to get access to a bolt that sits in the very back here that holds the buffer tube to that spring guide. What you're gonna do is once you take that bolt out, you're gonna take your special tool, insert it, and you can either elongate that spring guide, increasing the pressure natively on that spring, or you can lower the tension on that spring, decreasing your velocity. So what that's gonna do is you can go up to the chrono line. I've done this, I promise you, having several KWAs in my collection with the VM4 system, literally have that bolt out, have tool in hand, go up to the chrono line, battery already in, hand them my magazine, they load up .20s, load it in, shot, shot, shot. Hey, I'm sitting 330 and I'm indoors, so I want to get as close to 350 as possible, right? I'm 330, increase tension, shot, 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 342. Okay, I can go a little bit closer, tension, shot, 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 348, right? I could either get as close to that 350 as possible. 348's a pretty good number in my case. Now, not to brag or nothing, but I've also way lowered the tension on some of these VM4s. So some of them, especially my Ronin 47 that I had, I took it down to around 290 feet per second. That was the lowest tension I could get it. And I played like an entire day at 290 feet per second. Don't tell anyone that I was 60 feet per second lower than everyone else, and I was still performing at the same standard, right? Having just as much fun and performing just as well. Don't tell anyone. Now on the conversation of the Q10, again, kind of disregarding the optic, the vert grip, the mock suppressor, as well as the flashlight that I have on the side here. Never mind those of you that do know what I'm talking about. There's no switch on here for the flashlight. I know you guys already noticed it, but it's just on there for show, honestly. Don't even have the switch. It's probably in one of my gear bags. What makes the Q10 special in particular is the fact that this one, not having an adjustable velocity gearbox, this one instead is going to have electronic recoil. Now, again, I have had a couple of the electronic recoil rifles in my collection. The Q10 is something that is even a little bit more special compared to them, but they have a commonality. The Q10 in particular is going to have a rather large 7-inch, 6-inch copper bolt that sits in the very back here. So you have your standard AEG spring. It's a standard spring, nothing special about it. Your standard AEG spring that is going to sit in the receiver here. You have that large copper bolt that sits to about here, and then you have an even smaller AEG spring. What that does is every time you fire, right, the motion on EEG of firing, pull the trigger, the motor has to turn over a gear set, which is going to pull the piston back. The motion of the piston going back is going to push and compress that AEG spring backwards. The action of that compressing backwards is going to put that copper bolt in motion against the very back of the buffer tube here. So that creates a very elongated, long motion when it comes to a simulated recoil. Now, it is my opinion and it is my observation, having both KWA gas blowbacks and electric recoil rifle systems, I think that the electric recoil recoils a little bit more compared to a gas blowback. Some people aren't gonna like that. Some people are already gonna be super against it. They're gonna object it. They're like, no, there's no way. I can attest in some manner the optic that I used to have on my gas blowbacks, I put onto my KWA T10. The T10 is the electric recoil version. The optic that was on the gas blowbacks worked just fine. As soon as I put it onto the T10, ran it for literally half a day indoors, it rattled the optic loose. It broke the electronics on the inside of that optic, and I had to throw it away and I had to discard it. Where I think the benefit of the Q10 is the fact that because it has that electronic recoil, take it for what it's worth, at least the system is moving. You have some type of shock system of the entire gun jolting in your hand as you fire it on semi and full auto. So you're getting a simulation, regardless what level it is. Again, people are gonna have a bitch fit about it. Regardless of what you consider, you are still getting some recoil simulated in the action. This, I think, is a phenomenal training opportunity for those who are looking to get something maybe not as costly as maybe a gas blowback, considering the fact that you're buying BBs and you're buying gas as a consumable power source. So some people might like that, might not like that. They also might not like the fact, do you like how I'm doing my KMP9 right here as my gas blowback? Some people might not also like the fact that some of the parts, if they need to be replaced, might be a little bit more costly or even have to get maintained more often than an AEG. So for that reason, KWA has been working extra hard, and they've introduced this additional system in some of their earlier models, and I think it's phenomenal that they've introduced that again to these two systems, and that is the active cutoff switch feature. So what happens is when you utilize the MS-120/30, I actually think I have that backwards, MS-30/120 type magazines, there's a switch on the bottom here that you can change the capacity from 30 rounds to 120 rounds. You have a follower as well as a switch on the very back top magazine. And what that does is when that follower reaches all the way outwards to empty the magazine, that switch is going to activate and it flips a notch on the inside of the Q10 as well as the M10. And what that does is that simulates an empty magazine. So what you have to do is you have to drop that magazine, insert a fresh one, as well as hit the imitation bolt release. Well, in this case, it's an actual functioning bolt release on a battery powered system. And then once you hit that bolt release, you're good and you're ready to continue to fire again. And you have that both on a simulated recoil system as well as the M10 that has the convenience of being able to play indoors or outdoors. Guys, I can't make this up. I think that this is an excellent opportunity for guys that are looking to get into airsoft as a training platform. But again, don't want to look at the cost or the consumable price of the gas blowback that I have potentially right here. So all your power source is generated from this rechargeable lithium battery. Look at how small and how convenient that is. These sit up here in the stock and they work off of a Dean's connector. I gotta find a good spot for this. In the case of the Q10 that I have here, the two slots on the very side here, that is gonna be where your battery is going to slide into. It's a Dean's connector, so you can't really mess it up. I'm always happy when I see new replicas come out with the Dean's connector. Dean's has become the standard, and I am a huge fan of that. Hi, can you guys stop banging against each other? So once we've got that battery plugged in, push that in, press the wires down gently, and then I'm gonna put my battery cap on. Now my suggestion, my pro tip, if you will, find the position where you prefer that stock. In my case, I'm typically a 1 position or a 2 position out type of dude. That's just my preference, that's my prerogative, if you will. Then I've got my magazines, insert my fresh magazines, and I'm good to go. Now, in the case of this one, I do have the follower taped down. However, I'm gonna simulate and give you an example as to what that empty magazine detection would look like. So, say I'm firing, have my finger work as the empty magazine switch, and notice how I can click and fire, but nothing is going to actually go off and nothing is going to shoot, no matter how much I do this. I can take the magazine out, right? I'm gonna hit the magazine release. There's no magazine, just like with a real rifle, I swear to you guys. Then, whether you insert a fresh magazine or even hit this bolt release on the very side here, and now you're back off and running to the races. This is phenomenal when it comes to understanding some basic motor skills when it comes to utilizing real rifle systems. Something that, again, rechargeable battery source, BBs. From KWA, last I looked, the 5,000 round .25s, .28s were somewhere in the ballpark of $28, right? Super easy. I can't even, I just went to the store and just got more 5.56 and more 9mm. I have to spend, what was it, $250 for 150 rounds? Grossly over expensive in my opinion. Was that what I paid or was that with 9mm? Either way, way too much. When my magazine capacity can maximize at 120 rounds, it makes the bulk 5.56 ammunition look disgusting. And all I'm doing is I'm getting the same basic motor skills, the same basic functionality when it comes to controls, ergonomics, moving, and doing all my motion with a simulated rifle system. Now, this I have been a huge advocate for, huge proponent for utilizing airsoft as a baseline training system. By no means is this going to be a replacement for real firearm training. I am not saying that whatsoever. Don't take this out of context, I promise you. However, this is phenomenal for understanding, again, the motor mechanics, at least your motor skills as far as how you are going to move and operate that rifle system in terms of your body, as well as just getting the overall idea where those 30 rounds are, right? You can take a switch here, 30 round capacity. It's that easy. Switch it back, 120 rounds, right? Back to 30, just like that. So you can get all 30 rounds so you can keep count in your head, get used to what those 30 rounds sound like, and then boom, empty, insert a fresh one, and you're back off to the races. I'm a huge advocate for it. KWA is also way pushing this as well. A lot more real firearm guys are turning towards airsoft, not just KWA, but airsoft as the, again, baseline training platform. Awesome for getting the mechanics, the motor skills. Not everyone is nearly as blessed when it comes to financial freedom in order to advocate money or funds towards range time, let alone ammunition. So this is a great opportunity to either teach your family, teach your friends, teach any of your neighbors, any of your dude friends that have any type of interest. So guys, I gotta get off my soapbox. I've taken up way too much of your time. This has been a real down and dirty with the M10 and the Q10. You can see both of these full-length videos coming out shortly where I'm breaking down just the M10 and breaking down just the Q10. I'm a huge fan of KWA. You can see a bunch of gameplay. I went and took the T10 all the way out down to Indiana for one of the most recent milsims that I went to. Heavy son of a bitch. After a full day, I'll tell you what, but I'm a huge fan of it. In fact, one of the big reasons that one last thing. One of the reasons that I go continuously towards KWA for one of like my go-to airsoft replicas is the fact that these are very durable, very robust bodies. I have videos of me taking my KWA LM4s, throwing them or sliding them off of countertops and then kicking them across the storefront that I managed, the airsoft headquarters, and you can see a lot of gameplay and reviews about a lot of KWA replicas. I've also taken, you can see some gameplay with the T10 at Indiana, the Muscatuck training facility. And you can see how well that has performed. Huge fan of it. Here's a video of me doing pull-ups on my T10, right? There's no other airsoft replica that I would trust to handle my weight. At the time, I weighed probably 200 pounds. As of right now, I'm 184, thank you for asking. But I went down to around 179 and I'm currently trying to bulk up. So if I seem a little bit beefier, I have a lot more meat in me as it is right now. So that is what I have for you guys. Again, I've taken up plenty of your time. Thank you guys so much for staying to the end of the video. If you have any specific questions, put them down about in the comments section about the M10, if there's anything that you want to see, or even the Q10 that you want to see, even anything about like the KMP9 that I have here, the Ronin 47, the T6s. I have the original Eve 9 off the top of my head. I do have the SR10 or a variant of the SR10 that still has the Magpul furniture still on it. Utilize the KWA LM4, so I've got a couple of videos out about that. I've done a couple of specific mods to it. Had the KWA AK, the little AK-74 SU type guy. Loved running that indoors, right? That was probably that is one of the few ones that I actually miss, and I would like to get back to my collection. The Ronin 47. When that one first came out, I picked that guy up and ran that indoors. Huge fan of that one. Played with the TK45, TK45Cs, both indoors and outdoors. I feel like I'm missing a couple more off the top of my head. But that's just what I've rattled off on the top of my head. That's what I've had in my collection. So if you have any questions on those, put them down in the comment section below. I'd love to see them and potentially answer them in upcoming videos. So with that, you guys take care, stay safe, stay positive, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.